Hi everyone, this is a tutorial to demonstrate how to work the wrap stitch columns. This is a design called Wandsworth Road, and it features these columns of wrap stitches throughout the body and the sleeves. I'm going to show you how to work them now. Okay, so with each wrap stitch column that you come to, they're edged with a purl stitch. So it's a purl stitch first of all. And then basically the wrap stitch is two knit stitches with the working yarn wrapped twice around them. So in order to wrap the yarn around these stitches, you slip the two stitches to the right needle and you bring your working yarn around the back of that right needle round to the front. Return the stitches back to the left needle and you continue wrapping your working yarn around. So back between the needles round to the back, and then you repeat that for a second time. You slip your stitches to the right needle, bring your yarn around to the front, slip them back to the left needle, and bring your yarn back between the needles to the back of the work again. At that point, you're ready to knit the two stitches and purl the next stitch, which is the other edge of your wrap stitch column, and then you carry on working as normal. Now that is how to work the wrap stitch. What you then do for this particular design is you'll either work a wrong side row where you would just knit, purl twice and knit, or if you're working in the round, the next time you come to these stitches you would just purl, knit two and purl. And then the following round after that, or row, you would be working the wrap stitch again. So it's a 2-row repeating pattern. Now, the issue for me personally, as a slightly impatient knitter, is that I found the kind of slipping the stitches back and forth on the needle a bit slow and frustrating. So I've come up with a bit of a shortcut that I'm going to show you next. So I'm ready to work another repeat of the wrap stitch pattern now, but instead of kind of this back and forth moving the stitches from one needle to the other, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to bring my right needle underneath my left needle between the second and the third stitch on this left needle, so around those two knit stitches that I'm wanting to wrap. So I'm going under the needle to the back, and I'm going to pick up and knit one stitch here. I'm going to pull that round to the front, and what you'll notice is as I pull that round to the front, I'm creating the illusion of the working yarn having been wrapped twice around those stitches. And then all I do is I pop it onto my left needle, and then I knit those two together to get rid of that extra stitch that I've just created. And that actually creates the same effect as having kind of officially properly wrapped the stitches together. This is kind of almost like a shortcut or a slightly lazy way of doing it. Personally, because of the number of times the wrap stitch is used in this pattern, I preferred that method, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with the first version I showed you if you have the patience for it. Now, one other thing to mention about this kind of cheaty option is I found that when I was working flat, my tension was fantastic. I had no problems with it. But when I was working in the round, I found that this first purl stitch was getting a little bit too loose. So what I'm going to show you next is just how I kind of dealt with that slight looseness that I was seeing in my work, just in case the same thing happens to you. So where I'm using the cheat version, the shortcut version of the wrap stitch, what I found when I was working in the round was, as I said before, that the purl stitch before I was working the wrap tended to get a little bit loose. So the way that I dealt with that was to continue working the wrap stitch in the way that I just demonstrated. So picking up that spare stitch, bringing it around the front, and then working the knit two together. But then when you come to work the second stitch of the wrap stitch, this is where you address the tension issue. So if you have a quick look on the back, you can even see, you can see where that oversized purl stitch has appeared. Remember, on the wrong side it'll show up as a knit stitch. You can see it there. So all I did as I was working in the round was I picked up the extra strand with my left needle, and then I work another knit two together with that second knit stitch of the wrap stitch. I'll just show you that again. So on the wrong side, you'll be able to see the elongated knit stitch, and coming from that is the strand of the picked up stitch running across the back of the wrap stitches there. So all I would do is pick up with my left needle that strand, which in effect pulls it upwards, which then tightens that purl stitch, and then work the knit two together to get rid of that extra picked up bit of stitch. And all that did was just tighten that purl stitch really nicely. Now, everyone's different when they're knitting. It might be that you don't have that tension issue that I found, but just in case you do, that's the solution that I found for dealing with it. As I said before though, you can work this wrap stitch either way. So the first method that I showed you, where you're transferring the stitches between the needles and wrapping your working yarn around, that works great, and it's probably better in terms of maintaining an even tension. But if you want to use the shortcut method, then that's available to you as well. The best advice I can give you is to swatch and to see what works for you, what works for your knitting style and for your tension. Okay, so that's the wrap stitch. I hope that helps.